All right. Thank you so much for your patience. I do apologize for our delay. My name is Lauren Grundy Bird. I am the chapter president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated New Gamma Omega chapter. We thank you for your presence on tonight as we enjoy the information that is shared. This is our voter education forum. The purpose of tonight is to clearly explain what will be on our ballot for November 15th. So of course, we do have some representatives that have been here. We have asked and reached out to the city, parish as well. We've asked for East Baton Rouge Council on Aging, for our mosquito abatement, and the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. However, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, the library could not be here, and unfortunately, the city is not present. So I do thank you all for your time. Without delay, my social justice chairman, Ms. Maya Guns Flowers, she is absent. She has to leave for an emergency. So again, I want to embrace you and welcome you on tonight as we indulge in a lot of information, educating you, and you being able to ask questions. I will provide a introduction to our co-chairman, Ms. N. Renee Woods. She's present. As we want to, of course, if you are an elected official, if you will please stand. If you are an elected official, please stand. And we'll allow you. We want to acknowledge you and thank you for being present on tonight. If you will, if you can introduce yourself, your name, where you represent.
Thank you. I'm Vanessa Caston, of course, State Representative District 101, and to you all, I say welcome to District 101.
Hello, everyone. I'm Desiree Collins with the City of Baker. I'm Councilwoman for District 3.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your presence on tonight. Thank you for being here to mix and mingle with the public as we hear and indulge on information that will be shared. Next, we're gonna move it on and introduce our moderator, Dr. Christy Gary. I will allow her to introduce herself, tell you a little bit about herself as she takes on the forum tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Christy Perry. I am Director of United Excel Social Justice Institute. It is housed at United Christian Faith Ministry under the none other than the greatest pastor in the world, Dr. Mark Ellis. I'm also Associate Professor of Sociology at Southern University, where I also serve as Director of the Center for Social Research. So that's just a little bit about myself. I have two beautiful daughters and a dog named Mina, okay? So I would like to welcome everyone tonight. It is such an honor tonight to serve as the facilitator of this prestigious event. I would like to give a great big shout out to the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, New Gamma Omega chapter. Conversations like these are absolutely essential to the growth of our community, and we need more of them. I would also like to recognize United Excel Social Justice Institute. Give them a hand. We focus on biblical justice, making sure that people understand their rights and responsibilities as Christian citizens when it comes to voting. One of the things that we want to go ahead and thrive into this. The purpose of tonight's event is to inform, it is not to persuade, it is to help all of us understand exactly what the Thrive EBR Village proposal is. We also want to know, what does it mean for East Baton Rouge Parish? And we're going to hear different perspectives so that we can gain an understanding. And when we go to the polls, we don't want to just show up at the polls. We want to be educated as we cast our votes. So our goal tonight is to walk away with clarity, facts, and some community insight. not just opinions, okay? So tonight, we're gonna make sure we keep our remarks respectful, allow each speaker to finish, and then we're gonna welcome questions, because everybody wants to have an understanding of what's going on. But before we get into, this, let me provide a general overview of Thrive EDR, and then I'm going to ask, Councilwoman Collins to come up, and she's going to talk about exactly what village is, and just give us some baseline education and inform us of exactly what we're discussing tonight, okay? So Thrive EDR is a parish-wide initiative in East Baton Rouge Parish designed to renew and redirect existing property tax villages. It is not to raise new taxes. Right now, there are 3 villages up for renewal under the Thrive EDR plan. 1, East Baton Rouge Parish Library System. 2, Council on Aging. 3, Mosquito Abatement and Rodent Control District. Each of these has a 10-year property tax village that funds its services. These villages are expiring, so the Thrive Plan places them before voters on the November 15th, 2025 ballot, and early voting will be beginning on November 1st. Now, here's what's unique about this particular village. The proposal does not raise the tax rate, but it changes how a portion of the revenue is used. For example, the library system's 11.1 mills will be renewed, but about 8.3 mills will stay in the library for daily operations, books, technology, and branch improvements. The remaining 2.8 mills will be redirected to the city parish general fund to support infrastructure improvements such as road repair, stormwater management, and debt reduction. There's also a one-time transfer of approximately $52 million from the library's existing fund balance to pay down parish debt. Similar adjustments apply to the Minnesota Council on Aging and Mosquito Control, with a small portion redirected to parish-wide needs. The Mayor President's office supports the plan, emphasizing that it will strengthen infrastructure and stormwater management, prevent service cuts and layoff. The city warns up to 12% in departmental cuts if the plan fails. And maintain central community services, particularly our libraries and senior programs, without raising taxes. Supporters see Thrive EDR as a way to protect existing services while investing in infrastructure and financial stability. Critics, however, raise questions about whether redirected funds could weaken the agency's ability to maintain service quality, how accountability will be ensured for the reallocated dollars, and whether future increases might follow once its 10-year period ends. So tonight, we're going to explore all sides of this issue. But before we get started with the panel discussion, I'm going to invite Councilwoman Desiree Collins, District 3 Baker, to come up and explain. Give her a hand as she comes. Give her a Councilwoman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Have you heard the term village before? And when you hear it, do you wonder? Anyone have you heard the term village before? Familiar? Yes, we've heard it. Do you know what it means? Do you know what a village is? I think too often we hear the word, but how often do we ourselves use a village? Like when you reach into your pocket and you pull out a village. It's foreign. So I want to talk a little bit, for those of you who may already know, then you can just kind of dismiss part of the conversation. But for those of you who were kind of wondering or wanted to talk to someone else about it, a village is 1/10 of a penny. So if you think about being in your car and you're trying to buy something through the drive-through and you reach down to try to find the difference, you're reaching into the seat or wherever you might find change, and you pull out what you need to make up the difference for your whatever it is you're buying. Well, if you can imagine reaching in and the value of a village is 1/10 of a penny. So then within that 1 penny, there is 10 other pieces of currency that could be used. Like when we find a dime, we know a dime is 10 pennies. Well, a millage is a tenth of a penny. So when we're thinking about how much is a millage and why do they keep talking about millages and how much is that gonna be at the end of the day, I think we can all safely respond by saying, how much is a millage? A tenth of a penny, right? So if someone said that, we were gonna be charging, let's see, $20 on every $1,000 that you make, then that would be a millage. I hope that answers any questions that you might have, and I'll pause if you have any other questions, but I try to make sure that we can explain it in a way that the smallest child would understand. That if I was talking to that young lady right there and asked her, so now can you tell me what's a millage? She grabs out a penny and say, 10 villages is in this one penny. It's a tenth of a penny. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Well, I would like to welcome our panelists, Dr. James Gilmore from Generation United PAC. And so, Dr. Gilmore, take about 3 to 4 minutes to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I didn't know I was in District 101. Okay, great. It's a pleasure to be here. I enjoy the opportunity to educate and inform citizens about what's going on in the community, and I feel privileged to have been asked to come this evening to talk about the proposed renewals that are coming up in a few weeks on the November 15th ballot. Early voting is November 1st through the 8th. Tonight, I represent what we call Generation United PAC. And what that is a political action committee. And in case you're wondering why Tasha Clark Amar isn't here tonight, it's because as a result of our state laws, the Council on Aging and staff, they can't really talk about items that are on the ballot, especially asking you to vote yes or no, because they are a quasi-public state agency. And so what we did was we created a political action group, an advocacy group, to go out and educate and speak on their behalf. And so I represent Generation United PAC. Now, Generation United PAC also engages the library, and that's where we get the term Generation United, because we thought that it would be great to represent both the young people who walk through these doors every day, as well as the seniors, and so that's where we get Generation United PAC from. And so I'm here tonight to basically answer questions and to share with you the knowledge that I know as it relates to the tax renewals that are on the ballot. The mayor's office isn't here tonight, and I want to just make it clear, I do not speak on behalf of the mayor or the mayor's office, though I don't mind sharing with you facts that I know about the tax millage and what the mayor and his staff has said, both publicly and in meetings where that I've attended. But I do not represent the mayor or the mayor's office tonight. Okay? Want me to start talking now?
I'll answer your question.
Questions and answers. Okay, that's great.
And maybe we could just sit here, you know, okay with that? Have a conversation.
All right.
You know, many times I see on Dr. Gilmore's Facebook page where he's fishing and frying fish and crabs. I never get invites, so maybe after the conversation tonight, he'll start inviting me to those.
You're always invited.
Okay, the first question, Dr. Gilmore, given the promise that Thrive ER won't raise taxes, how can voters be sure the rate won't change later, or that the redirected funds will truly reach infrastructure projects?
Again, I don't speak on behalf of the mayor, but I can tell you what I know as it relates to facts. First of all, I want to make sure that you all know that when we say it doesn't raise taxes, let me quantify what that means. Because I've attended some community meetings and residents have brought their tax bills to clarify to the mayor's office and others. So it's called rollback. The Council on Aging millage is 2.25. That's what we voted on in this parish. During the pandemic, when sales taxes were down, the mayor at that time, Mayor Broom, asked the Council on Aging, as well as other agencies like the library, to give a little bit of their millage back to the city coffers in order to help fill budget gaps and take care of needs. So this whole thing about it not being an increase in your taxes, some may perceive it is, because right now on your tax bill, it says 2.0 for the Council on Aging, not 2.25. The same with those others, because they rolled back and took some from us already voluntarily, because the Council on Aging didn't have a problem giving 1.2 million back to the city parish government to help fund sources. And so what the Council on Aging decided to do was, in negotiations with the mayor back in February, when all this came about, the Council on Aging said, hey, Mayor, we already give the city $1.2 million every year since 2019 because of the pandemic. How about you just keep that? Because we've been able to maintain services, we've been able to provide programming, we've been able to fully staff our agency. And so, Mayor, you all just keep the normal $1.25 million that we've been giving back since 2019. So, on the ballot, when you all go to vote on November 15th, it's going to say 2.25, not the rollback 2.0, but of that 2.25, 1.25 billion will go to the city government coffers that they've always been giving since 2019. With the other, and I don't need to go on, I gotta just make sure we know the background things, that's all, okay? And with the library, I don't know what their millage was, rollback was, because I don't work as closely with them, but they too, in negotiations with the mayor, said, we'll be willing to give you a certain amount of dollars back. And I think, and just so, it's on the documents, but they have a lot more money, their millage is much higher. They agreed to give a one-time, give back of $52 million, and then they will give about $16 million a year for 10 years back to the city government. Their millage is much higher than the council age. We're 2.25, I think they're 11 one some. Okay, and so that's what's going on. I wanted to clarify, because I've been in town hall meetings where people have stood up and said, yes, you are increasing, because now instead of the rollback of 2.0, we're paying 2.25. So I like to clarify things. Okay? Did I confuse everyone? No. Okay.
And I just want to be clear, Dr. Gilmore, I understand you don't represent the mayor's office, but do you know, or are you familiar with, the changes later as it relates to this particular and the redirecting of the funds?
So these funds are being directed back into the general fund. What that means is that the mayor and the city council can do whatever they want to do with those funds, because they're in the general fund. The mayor is saying that he wants to use these dollars for stormwater management plan, infrastructure, and other things. However, the truth is, he will have to get the approval of the city council to do anything he's proposing right now. So no, it's not a guarantee, because when it gets to the city council, they may well decide to do other things with these dollars. The mayor has some ideas about what he wants to do with it, but because it's going to general fund, it can be spent in any way. And in the future, I think the third part of the question was, and yes, in the future, this does not guarantee that your taxes don't go up or that they don't increase and request more in millage dollars, okay?
But
Now,
wait,
what-
Dr. Gilmore, but what it does is it puts in the front seat agencies that we already trust. And they're banking on the trust for the library, because we've seen how they've used the money. They're banking on the trust for Council on Aging. We've seen how they use the money. So they are backdooring what they wanted to do initially, which was have their own millage that they knew couldn't pass. So now they've gone into our trusted entities and put that on the ballot. So
That's
that
factual statement.
if I vote against the Council on Aging, I'm voting against the Council on Aging. If I vote against the library, I'm voting against the library and the money that I've already been trusted with them.
That's a factual statement.
Okay, let's go through the questions, please write down your questions so you won't forget them, and then we're gonna come back for question and answers. Okay. Another question, if Thrive EBR doesn't pass, what will be the most visible changes for residents or city services?
That's a question that unfortunately the mayor's office is not here to answer. From what you read, the mayor has indicated layoffs and he has indicated that he'll have to find ways to fill gaps in the budget. That's the most that I've heard. And when I've been in meetings, and publicly when asked, what's the backup plan? I've been told, if these fail, there isn't a backup plan.
But what happens to the agencies? What happens to the Council on Aging? I'm sorry.
No, come sit up here. Come sit down. No, come sit down, please. The crowd wants you to come
That's
sit
the
down.
ultimate question, right?
Yes.
What happens, that's why it's tacked on to the agencies that we trust. If it fails, there's gonna be money not there for Council on Aging, money not there for the libraries. And you say you're gonna fire all these people.
Correct. Factual statements.
Can I ask?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Perry, I'm gonna obey.
Dr. Perry, if you had questions ahead of time, you would have got them to me, I would have worked on it. Questions for you.
We're gonna get through our questions, or we just do your question? All right. How can the city build public trust and ensure transparency? And I think that's what we're getting to, right?
Yes.
Transparency, so voters can track how the tax dollars are used under this particular plan.
Yeah, that's another question for you, Mayor.
We don't have that.
That's another question for you, Mayor, or a member of the staff.
What do you believe is most at stake here for everyday citizens?
Now, I can answer that question.
Young people in this particular case.
Yes, we're talking about, tens of millions of dollars. Let me also clarify this because I've seen various words used. There's a difference in rededicated and redirected. Okay? I've heard rededicated being used when the term redirected should have been used. Okay, because these funds are going to be redirected to other places. And again, the general fund, we don't know what might happen once these funds are redirected. The mayor can say what he plans and hopes to do with that money, but it doesn't guarantee that. As a citizen, you should know that.
Is it possible, Dr. Gilmore, that these funds can be set aside in a separate account specifically for the purpose that voters are voting for them?
That might have been something the mayor's office should have thought about, and that is a practice, is that they done here now.
One of the questions I was asked, where does St. George fit into all of this when it comes to, the village? Can you explain a bit to us how does St. George fit into this particular tax?
So, based on my history of working with the previous mayor, at that time, we knew that St. George was asking for about $60 million. At that time, that mayor wanted a plan and wanted St. George to demonstrate what they were going to do with that $60 million because they had not done that. Hence the lawsuit, because the mayor Broom said, before I give you 60 million, the law says you at least have to give me a plan and prove to me what you're going to do with that 60 million. Mayor Broom's calculations were around 20 to 30 million. But St. George had pulled the number of 60 million from somewhere, okay? So, I don't think we heard much about layoffs under Mayor Broom. I don't think we heard much about budget deficits, you know what I mean, going broke, the sky is falling under Mayor Broom. So, I haven't seen or worked with this mayor's budget since he took office in January. I just know all of a sudden, the sky began to fall, and it also just so happened to coordinate at the time of the creation of St. George. I attended one town hall meeting for Councilman Moak, and Moak emphasized that a lot of these dollars were going to be used for the stormwater master plan. His constituents pushed back, because for those of you all who don't know, the talking point sheets that you have say that about 1.25 billion a year of the Council on Aging's money will be used to pay for the stormwater management plan. For those that may not know, that's a $1.2 billion plan. So the constituent said 1.25 billion doesn't really do much for a $1.2 billion plan. All I can give you are the facts and my experiences.
And
So in other words, I can't answer what it's going to be used for, because I've only heard stormwater master planning and to fill budget hole gaps.
And do we have a plan yet from St. George?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Thank you so much for your thoughtful answers. As you can see, the room is bubbling with questions. So we're going to just pass the mic and allow the community, our residents, to ask questions before they go out and vote.
Dr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Dr. Carey, if you can, help me with this. Is this request an attempt to manipulate the constituents to vote for the trusted entity, the entity we trust now, when a vote is not even necessary at this point? Because the current villages aren't in jeopardy as we stand this election cycle.
So partially accurate. The Council on Aging isn't in jeopardy, because when we went and supported the Council on Aging, that was 10 years ago, right now we're in our 9th year. The Council on Aging was supposed to be on the ballot next year. The mayor decided, because realize this, the city council and the mayor determine whether our taxes get on the ballot. So again, when the library and the Council on Aging and mosquito abatement were negotiating with a newly elected mayor in January, they had to embrace the fact that they will not even get on the ballot for you all to vote to renew it without the mayor and city council approval.
So, in short, the answer is this is manipulation. Okay. My next and final question that I have written is, what prevents this mayor and this council from diverting untold sums to St. George
Nothing
to
else.
shore it up?
Nothing at all. It goes to the general fund, they can do whatever they want to do.
So, in other words, we've been bamboozled and placed in a chokehold to keep our seniors receiving the services that they're receiving, in lieu of some seniors who probably receive SNAP, not being able to get those benefits to help them with their food. What I said was my final, so the Council on Aging can't come next year and request that the city council approve them to go
Yes,
on
they-
that for me?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
We have until, the council of agent has until next year to get their millage passed. And because the council of agent is very fiscally responsible, they are very capable of making it, for the next year. Well, you know, if this millage fails, they're gonna be fine until next year's election in November. And that gentleman back.
Yeah,
Now, let me also speak on behalf of the library. The library is not in the same situation as the council agent. If it doesn't pass for the library in November, they won't receive any more money come 2026, and they don't get a second chance. They would have to start all over again, requesting a millage from the city council and the mayor, and from us as citizens.
How are they financially now? Because, you know, the library has been very,
They are very responsible
efficient
with their dollars.
with their
Yes.
money.
This building was paid for with cash. That's why the library, has been so good at saving up money, because they pay as they go. And so, which is very fiscally responsible. In fact, the council on aging, next year, they will be debt free, because our goal was to make sure that everything was paid off. And in case next year it didn't pass, at least we knew that our buildings and things would be paid off. So the library and the council on aging have been very transparent and fiscally responsible with taxpayer dollars. And this is a tough situation that they're in, that they had no idea they would be rushing their renewals until January of this year. We had no idea we would be doing what we're doing today right now.
And that is the problem. Thank you so much for answering that. The fact is, these agencies have no choice. They have been actually a gun put to their heads. They have to support this village because they don't have a choice. But we do have a choice. And I just think that you were saying about Plan B, there will be a Plan B. Because I don't think the citizens will stand for the libraries to be closed. I don't think, if in case the village is not passed. So I think that, this is a way that they are trying to, underhand us. But the other question I have, how can these agencies function as give us the excellent service that they're giving us if they're gonna have less money? So if they're taking some of their village and you're going to the, the general funds, how will they continue? They gonna still have to cut back services, staff, or something. And right, what is your
So,
understanding?
here's my understanding of it. You're dealing with, as I said before, very fiscally responsible agencies that have done very well in managing their monies. Again, they won't go broke for a year, but past a year, who knows what might happen? Because they talk a little bit away here and there, you know what I mean? Don't overspend here and there, and so a year from now, they are very capable of functioning at full programs and services. After that year, you're correct, with the dollars being redirected to the general fund, they won't be able to perform to the maximum potential that they could.
And why should the library reallocate 52.4 million from their fund balance? What is the,
That question has been asked a lot, and I don't represent the mayor's office, but what the mayor's office has said is that their goal is to pay down debt with the library's initial deposit of 52 million. Now, again, realize prior to January, I didn't really hear any dialogue or talks about the city being in debt. So how the mayor defines debt, I don't know. Is it St. George? Is it something else? I'm not sure. But what the mayor is saying is that 52 million will be used to pay down debt.
why isn't the mayor's office here tonight? Was someone, you all not invited the mayor's office, someone to represent the mayor?
I believe you all invited the mayor, and then I personally also invited the mayor's office because I didn't want to be put in a situation like I'm in right now.
Anyone else have questions or anything?
This gentleman has been waiting a very long time.
Thank you. So, can you all read to us the actual ballot language that will show up? Because I have not heard that. I think it's important, at least for me, to know what the actual ballot language is. And I have a follow-up, what you know.
I can read it.
Okay.
And I just want you all to know that you all can go and download Go Vote app and put it on your phone, and you can see exactly what's on your ballot, okay? The language is very, very long, okay? But I will tell you that,
I get that it's long, and I've looked out and read some of the language, but I'm going somewhere with this when I ask it, so if you want to summarize it, that's fine, but there's a follow-up that I had once.
I think you should give us your follow-up question, because I kind of know what you're ready. Give us your follow-up question. For the record, the word thrive will be nowhere on the ballot. The word thrive is nowhere on the ballot. All three, correct. The word thrive is nowhere on the ballot. Hence why I have used that word. Plus, I also let the mayor know that I always have using that word. So, well, what is on the ballot are 3 propositions. Now, I helped write the council on aging. I haven't read it on Global, but it says things like Meals on Wheels, and it talks about the services. So you should easily be able to recognize the council on aging, because it talks about the services and asks for you to, and they're the 3rd proposition, and they ask for you to say yes or no to their renewal.
there's 3 different propositions, okay? One represents the Council on Aging, one represents mosquito abatement, and one represents the library.
Do the words general fund show up anywhere in the ballot language in terms of where this money will go?
There's no language showing where it will go,
Yeah.
period.
We write in our office, what happens, the process is, we write a draft language about this the first time. Anyone that will allow us to, allow anyone to do draft language, and we insist that we do draft language. But once we turn it into the parish attorney, they do what they want to do.
Well, let me read it, okay? I'll take a shot at reading most of it. Shall the parish of East Baton Rouge, state of Louisiana, the parish, be authorized to rededicate $52,400,000 to be used for parish-wide general purposes. Heretofore and hereafter received from the levy of an ad valorem tax, the tax, previously approved for public library purposes at an election held on October 24th, 2015. And shall the parish be further authorized to extend and rededicate the levy of said tax at the rate of 11.1 mils on all property subject to taxation in the parish for an additional 10 years, beginning with the year 2026 to and including the year 2035. $67,432,500 is reasonably estimated to be collected from levying the tax for the entire year. So that A, proceeds heretofore and hereafter received from 8.30 mils of the tax shall be administered by the East Baton Rouge Parish Library Board of Control and used to maintain and operate the public library system of the parish, including collections, software, furniture, and equipment, and acquiring land and constructing new library facilities. And B, proceeds heretofore and hereafter received from 2.8 million mils of the tax shall be used for parish-wide general purposes, after paying reasonable and necessary expenses of collecting and administering the tax. So that's going for the parish library, and we do see general purposes, which is synonymous to general. Well,
Just tell you a little bit about my background. I worked for the legislature, the state legislature, fiscal matters, a lot of the legislature. I've written a lot of this language. So when I read this, you know, I understand how you can be just specific enough to be vague in order to get people to go along with it. And I think that that's what's happening. That's why I was asking about, you know, general purposes is code language for political money. That's one. And I didn't read anything in any of the language where there would be any sunset provision on what we're asking these agencies to redirect or whatever the language is prior to the expiration of this particular millage 10 years out if it passes. Now, I'm not opposed to this because I think we need it, but my point is, let's understand what's getting ready to happen. And I think you've done a good job in saying, look, well, I can say something you can't say because of the position you're in. But this is political money. And there's some political games of which I'm aware that's going to take place because of some of the negotiations that take place between East Baton Rouge, and St. George. I mean, there's some things that's going to get funded in St. George. I'm not saying St. George doesn't need it. All I'm saying is that transparency is not where it should be. So have I missed anything when I say there's no sunset provisions?
There's no
That
sunset
most of
provisions.
this money will be political money?
General fund money is usually broken. Because it takes a long to get it, so you have to get it taken. Council members have to get it taken, mayors get it taken.
Believe me, I get it.
Okay.
we have another question.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hello.
I'm totally out there. I'll tell you so much for you out there. I appreciate you, you know, trying, right? Because it's a statement, you know, maybe a question, but the mayor's office should have a representative, right? This ain't the 38th Street Social Club. This is the Alpha Kappa, sorority incorporated, founded on the campus of Howard University in 1908. If you don't see value in that, I first have a problem with that, right? Number two is, has anybody talked to the civil rights organizations about the legalities of this? Because as we talk here tonight, what the gentleman over there just mentioned, seems like the city is setting themselves up for years of litigation. And I see Attorney Thompson up there, he's smiling, right? He's smiling in line. You know, so I wonder if they had those conversations with the civil rights organizations. Have they met and say, hey, you know, I want some next year? Because I sit here as a former civil rights, a leader of a civil rights organization, and I'm thinking like I would be automatically thinking the day after this tax, if it passed, how do I sue the city? That would be my first thought. So I would have asked the mayor and the orchestration and the organizations sat down with these organizations and said, hey, what are your future plans around legalities of this? Do you plan on bringing litigation against this in the first place? Because the problem is when you say it goes into the general fund, the city council don't look like us.
That's right. Don't
So
look like
that
us.
money is going somewhere that we don't live. That's just what it is. It's always been that way, you know, not right, right? So that's problematic when you talk about going to the general fund. And then the things that gentleman mentioned, the fiscal part of it, has anybody had a conversation on legalities with this? Because when I hear this plan, it sounds like a lot of the same stuff that's happening in DC, right? And not to mention, like, we're having this conversation about budget deficits, and this is just me looking in it, right? The mayor's team seems large, right? So are the cuts starting downtown in St. Paul? Like, that's the question you can answer. I was thinking about 2 hours of the night, they're gonna open that, right? And Mayor Broom done a fantastic job of publishing her salaries on Open That. I hadn't seen one salary published from this current administration. Wow. So
That's scary.
those are questions that need to be answered before you can ask the public to vote for something that is vaguely written, that's probably gonna get you sued in a few years.
you all, we already voted for.
Right.
To go to one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Gilmore, this is not directed at you, the mayor's office should be here. My question is redirecting the general funds. I graduated from Southern, proud Southernite. How would that affect Scott? I live in Zachary, and that's a business Southern, a lot, during homecoming, potholes, all of that. We're gonna forget about Southern. Send it all to LSU, love LSU, but I believe you want to go. We got 2 4-year universities in this state, and we also have 2 great law schools in this city, in the state city. So that would be my question. How would this affect the HBCU?
As we talked about earlier, once the dollars hit the general fund, it's all politics. Yes, ma'am.
One of the things I heard you talk about was stormwater. One of the things that came up last time was crime prevention and wanting to help the police receive a raise. But nowhere in any of the things that the mayor's office has put out about receiving these villages are programs to help children excel.
Facts.
Nothing has come out about summer job programs. Nothing has, they found additional dollars early on for, and when I say early on, just in the nick of time for Head Start. But
The federal government.
yeah, but the federal government said they weren't sending it. So the city said, we have a way to get some, because Mayor Brewer would have never let that happen, you know, at the 11th hour. But who's to say you want money for this, that the way the federal government is currently operating, that we'll even have money for Head Start for our children, while the governor's office is busy building prisons for people,
Facts.
seeking funds for prisons. So how do we,
So let me help you out there. I've been doing this for about 20+ years, working for probably 9 or 10 elected officials. What normally happens after Katrina, Rita, and other significant crises, we usually do like town halls and community meetings to gain buy-in on what we do with dollars. We usually go to the people and say, let's master plan Plank Road, or let's master plan a community. That didn't happen this time. It strictly came from top down. So when you all ask me questions like, you know, why doesn't we have any money for youth programs in this? You know, I know for a fact there wasn't a town hall meeting where that question was asked. So one thing I've recommended to this administration is to go for the people first before you put together a plan.
you have a question?
I don't need a mic. Attorney Ryan Thompson, the question is that you get down to the meat and potatoes, right? Is what are y'all advising that we do on these taxes? Is it a vote no to put them in a position to where the library or the other agencies have to,
So let me, I understand where you're headed.
thank you.
Remember, I am here representing Generation United PAC. At the end of the day, everyone, I cannot tell you not to support the Council on Aging and this library system. Why? Because we came together in support of seniors and children and families. However, what I did tonight was help give you a clear picture of how we got to where we are, and I respect whatever decision you decide to make.
Understood. Thank you.
Hey, how are you? Fine.
Hi, I'm Jaleesa Lavalley. I work here in the library in the branch services department. I am the supervisor of several of the community branches. collected. We will not get a check in 2027. And hopefully, we would be able to get another payment from the millage if it's passed sometime in 2028.
And realize each time she said she has to go before the mayor and council to get on the ballot. That's the way the law is structured. We don't even get on the ballot. Y'all remember when cities packed City Hall to get on the ballot? And the city council members walked out? That's just how serious it is. We don't even get on the ballot for you to vote for us unless the mayor and city council are on the same page.
And even if this millage passes, what changes can we expect to see to the library?
So there will be cuts, but that's across every department. Like I said before, we are a department of city carriage. We do rely on them for HR, purchasing, financial decisions. We still have to go through them, even though we're funded through a millage. We still have to work with other departments of the city to function. We've looked at the budget. We will have 8.3 of the 11.1 mills. With that, we projected that we will be able to keep the hours that we have. But we will look at different things like the book budget, where we cut some. So it will be buying less copies of less popular books. So your hold time might be longer for a book. But one of the popular services, Libby, that everybody loves, the ebooks, that will stay. Libby will not be touched. We might cut budgets to different programming. So we'll still offer programming, but we'll try to partner with more of our community partners, like the Council on Aging or something else, and offer programs through that way. We will cut back on redundant services that we have in our databases. So if we have two databases that offer the same thing and one is used more frequently than the other, we'll get rid of one of them, so we won't have those redundant things. So a group in the administration have looked at this very carefully to see where they could cut without affecting services too much. But the main thing that we do want to stress is that the hours will stay the same. That's something that's important to the community. That's something that's important to us, that we remain open 7 days a week.
I have another question.
Okay, any question?
Yes, ma'am. Has there been any inclination where some of those funds may go? Public safety, waterworks, or anything like that?
So you mentioned earlier, I'm sorry to address it, the mayor did initially say in January or February, he will go to police pay raises. He since then said that's not gonna take.
It's not going to.
So that's what he said. I can state that. Now, again, if you look at any of their talking points, they say stormwater master plan, street maintenance, and to pay down debt. That's the general three talking points. You read a lot also that already. So.
Are they, follow question, are they stuck to that? Like if this is what they're saying it's gonna go to, are they required to state?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's the whole point of what we're saying is that this is the mayor's idea of what he would hope. It's sort of what Dr. Perry said, you know, there's no line item that says this amount will go to stormwater master plan. It says it will go to general fund, general purposes. And so based on the way the Chicago structural government works, when it gets there without a line item, it can be voted on to go anywhere. As I said, the Gray Foundation is relocating, we're relocating to the cafe. And the Gray Foundation could build a new building with this money if we get the votes and we get the mayor's support. So once it goes to general fund, it's open for negotiation regardless of what the mayor's hope is. And I'll make it clear because this question gets asked a lot by people, is that because what I don't want to happen, and I'm sure the library would agree, there will be a lot of disappointed citizens. If this passes and there's still a layoff and there's still a lack of resources and the money goes elsewhere. So we want to be transparent. Just because the mayor wants it to go to the stormwater management plan to prevent flooding doesn't mean that it will.
I did have a question in my apologies if it happened last already. So the library department in the mayor's office, is it not something in the department in the mayor's office?
No, we're not. And we are a quasi public agency, set up really by the state. money goes through the city and then comes to us as a pass-through. And then, of course, the millage goes through the city and comes to us, but based on state law, we don't answer to the city council or the mayor.
Okay, so my follow-up question, would be Quasi Governmental. Does the same rules apply what happens to get that, cohesiveness with the city council and the mayor's office to, present seat on the ballot again if this doesn't pass?
So, what are you asking again?
I'm trying to understand because since the council agency
The
is
reason,
not,
yeah, I'm sorry, let me clarify. So the council agent gets about $800,000 from the federal government that goes to the state, that comes to us. We were getting money, we were getting $400,000 a year from the city government. But what we said was if the citizens pass this millage, city, you can keep that 400 and do what you want to do with it. We would just use the millage dollars. But that doesn't change the process. If we want to put our millage back on the ballot, we have to go through the city council. Or else we'll be back functioning, instead of with 13 million a year, just with the 800,000 that we get from state government.
thank you.
Yeah.
So am I understanding you to say, because you said, more than once, that even though this is what the mayor wants, there's no guarantee that the council will pass it for what he asked for?
Correct.
Dr. Gilmore, what has the council given Mayor Sid that he hasn't asked for? That he's, what have they denied him? And who's to say, Eugene said it already. That's not a majority representation of the city anyway, that already sits on the council because of how the districts are gerrymandered.
So when you say that,
But that's
like, I don't go to put a motion to an all bad news, is that what you're saying?
Sound like it.
Transparency, we want to see where these dollars are going. We want to make sure that we understand that these are where the dollars are going, and there's not gonna be any switch once, this.
That's the understanding we want, but you have made it clear that that's not what we have in this ballot. And when he talked about federal funds, I managed millions of dollars worth of federal funds during my employment with the Department of Labor. I know that with any governmental dollar, it has to go where you say it's supposed to go. So there's a reason why it says general, because general don't have no name on it. I can generally do what I generally want to do with that money.
You all, I'll be remiss, and I'm not changing the subject, but I also came here to talk about the successes of the council on aging. I probably don't have to present those because all of you already know the good work, but I do want to also just brag and ask you to pay attention to this so that you'll know the good work that the council on aging has done and why we need that 13 million a year to continue the good work. And that's, I just want to make sure that we didn't miss that point amongst all the other conversations.
We have a question in that.
And, yeah.
Oh, right.
Have you reviewed, there been some conversation that if this tax doesn't pass, that there would be layoff? Have any of you seen any documents on what position would be laid off if this doesn't pass? And you know, sometimes in government, we say layoff, but through attrition and things like that, they so.
And you mean, okay, you mean city jobs or library jobs?
Yes.
Currently, we have already, because of the budget cuts across all departments, we've frozen positions that were unfilled, some. So that's part of the library's cuts. If it's not passed, more cuts will have to happen, but, I'm not aware of any discussions on how that will affect every department.
Yes, I was in a meeting and that's what, one of the things that came out said that there would be layoffs.
Yeah, when the mayor says that, he's talking about his city departments.
Yes.
And how can we still be guaranteed that with the passing of this, those layoffs will not still occur?
You generally can't.
isn't that like, again, putting something that already has to have a means and or restrictive into an unrestricted to do whatever you want with it?
So let me clarify, the $800 I was speaking of, that's what the council on aging gets from the federal government. Every council on aging gets an allocation. Nothing's gonna change about that, okay?
Okay.
The only reason I said that was to let you all know that if this doesn't pass, we go from 13 million worth of services back down to 800,000. That's a lot of less meals. That's a lot of less walkers that we could buy. You know what I mean? That's a lot less housing we could do. Now, the 13 million is a city tax millage. And if that's not renewed, then, we have a second chance next year in November to get it passed by the people. Again, the council on aging is in a much different predicament than mosquito abatement, who's giving up $60 million a year, as well as the library, who's giving up, I think, $52 million deposit, and then how much annually, 16?
It's 2.8.
Okay, so yeah, and so, yeah, 16, so they're gonna be giving up 16 million a year for 10 years, as well as a $52 million deposit. Again, the council on aging, in our negotiations, we just said, keep the 1.2 million that we already give you. So we're only giving up 1.2 million a year for 10 years, which we are capable of still functioning and providing services. But, you know, that's way different from what the library and mosquito abatement that would be giving us 60 million a year. Again, that might mean that certain neighborhoods only get sprayed for mosquitoes once a year instead of once a week, you know? So they're not here to talk about the impact that this would have on them, but I know for one thing, we all hate mosquitoes, I think. And so do realize that 6 million a year will be leaving them as well, but again, if they're capable of still performing, you know, I would hope they could, but I doubt it.
Okay, thanks so much.
Do we have any more questions?
I don't think I necessarily do them right. I would like for us to think about, I don't know how many of you live in the city of Baton Rouge, but I would like for us to think about us pulling out of the East Baptist Parish, like St. George, like Central, like Zachary, like Baker. Because I think as long as we are a part of the parish, we are supporting all of those other cities. We are supporting them. We're gonna support St. George, whether we like it or not. We're gonna support Central. We're supporting Zachary. So we are having to, you know, once upon a time it was East Baptist Parish because they were all a part of it. But they're not now. They have their own individual cities. We don't vote for their city council. We don't vote for their mayor.
That's right.
But they vote for our mayor.
That's right.
They vote for our city council. So at some point, we need to get smart, just like they have. And until then, though, and I don't know what it takes for us to pull out, but I think we do need to pull out at some point. And I think that gentleman said something that I just wanted to comment on, somebody back there, about suing. This is a red state. We're not gonna win. You can sue a mayor, the city council. But once we vote, that's what they're gonna have to say. They voted, the citizens voted for this. They knew that it was going, a certain percentage was going to general funds. Now we're gonna come back and try to have a city council. So that's just some things that I think we can think about.
I love your comment, and I would highly recommend that, this organization and others consider having a open, group discussion like this about that topic, and I know folks will be glad to come and educate you on the process. Yes, sir.
We have another question.
We can probably, yes.
I don't have a question, I'm just gonna make this kind of general, I'm gonna make kind of a general statement. These villages need to pass. we're caught between a rock and a hard place because there's no transparency in what's gonna happen with some of these redirected funds. I'm very concerned because the last time propositions were on the ballot, only one of 4, I think, passed, and that was the one for the school board. So that's a sentiment against renewing villages, but the Council on Aging needs this money, and the library needs the money. You know, these 3 entities need these funds. The position I'm in is that I pretty much decided I'm gonna hold my nose and vote yes for these. Because it's needed. I don't like what's happening with the lack of transparency and my experience in government and how these kinds of things work. I pretty much know where this is going. And I think everybody in this room pretty much knows where this is going, because when you get political money, political things happen. And, my comments were not directed at you. My comments were directed based on my experience as a professional for almost 40-some years in dealing with this stuff. And I've been on the side of writing some of these things that I ain't proud of, because it took advantage of people not knowing what was going on. And you parse language so that people can read into it what they want. But we need to pass these, I think. And that's just my opinion. I'm still struggling with this, but but my thought right now is that I'm just gonna hold my nose and vote yes.
Well, didn't I understand you to say that if we voted no, that the Council on Aging has a probability of getting on the ballot again next year because you already have enough money?
Yeah, but we're not, by legally, we're supposed to be on the ballot until November next year. The mayor chose to push us up early for this purpose. So yes, we will be able to get on the council approval, we can get on the ballot next year in November. But again, my partner here, she will have to, it's going to have a library. I don't know what I have.
They haven't checked in 20
They
years.
will have to go and get on the ballot in April. So that means that at November, if it fails, December, these folks are gonna have to be going through the process. It's not an easy process to get on the ballot for April of next year to try to let it pass. And at that time, I would hope the mayor would try to seize your dollars.
The amount would also still have to be approved by our library board first and then the council.
Yeah, we're gonna start all over. Yeah, you're already starting all over like they did 20 years ago to get on the ballot for April. And then if they chose not to get on the ballot for April, then they would have the option of working to get on the ballot for November with us and judges and all the other school board members for next November.
Okay, but didn't you say that if it's not voted now, that you have enough carryover through the end of 2026?
No, we will get a check. We will get the 2025 taxes in 2026.
Right.
And then we would basically have to live on our funds until 2028 if it passes in 2026. Because we will not get a check in 2027. If it does not pass this year, if it does not pass, if we're not able to get on the ballot in the spring. If we are able to get on the ballot with them in the fall of next year, if it fails.
But didn't you already give them ransom money of 52 million?
That's on the ballot to be voted for.
That's on the ballot.
The 52.4 million
When
to
you
pay
vote
out
yes for
debt,
them, that includes giving them.
it's in this.
Okay, I got you.
And one of the things I think that everybody needs to recognize too, in the spring, St. George will be putting on the ballot for that school change to come out of the district. That's a given.
That's why voting is so important.
And that's what
And let me tell you this, that's what we're just talking about. We don't have enough voter registration efforts in this city.
Right.
I've seen it.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and that's what I was going to mention. I'm standing up because I'm short. That's what I was going to mention, because after coming to something like this, if you, like this gentleman said, all of us, no matter what level of education we have, what organization we're with, what lifestyle we lead, we all get the gist of what's going on here. So I think that we definitely need to have some more initiatives like this to get this type of dialogue going on different levels, different ages, different groups, different mindsets. And I'm leaving here with the mind frame of what can I do to get this message and yes, thank you, package it. I mean, I don't wanna say like, dumb it down, because we want the message to stay clear. But what can I do to get this to on my platform and to my followers, to the people who follow me? And we do need to have more events like these. We need to have more dialogue, and we may have to hold our nose and vote, but, we know better, we do better. And moving forward, we can all do better because we'll have, the knowledge.
Also, I wanted to say too, that we can also talk to your local council person, because it appears that all of them were in support of this. And I think a lot of them should answer the very questions that we've asked tonight. So you can take these questions back to your council person and ask them about the general funds and housing dollars, or even how they're going to vote on certain issues.
I want to emphasize that point. The city council voted unanimously to allow the mayor to do this.
And the lady over there did mention, about the other cities. I just want to make clear that the library is parish-wide. It's not just for Baton Rouge. We do have locations in Baker, in Zachary, in Central. So they are also voting on this proposal also. This is a parish-wide proposal.
Okay, so, what we were saying? Because my military side is coming out. And well, ex-military, kind of cuss, but never good. I respectfully disagree. We cannot take the streets. And now, didn't support Sid, but he ran on integrity. That's one of my Army values that I learned. Nope. I voted for Mayor Weston Broom. Didn't agree with everything she said. She's not perfect. Nope. Want to have integrity? Now, I'm glad I came because you broke down that language. There's no sunset provisions. So it's not gonna be general purpose fund. I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I kinda want, I got my work shirt on, kinda, can't be too political, but I see the writing on the wall. And, it's.
You sound frustrated.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's happening in DC, it's happening in the state. No
They
disrespect.
don't follow you, y'all, get engaged. You need to figure out how to get engaged. We got city councilwoman in here, we got state legislature in here. Get on their email list, follow folks on Facebook, because sometimes these battles are pretty lonely and uphill, and so we want people engaged.
So, if I wanna plant the seed, you guys are great, love the library, love the council on aging, hate to see those. But they're using you as a shield for their corruption. So, you wanna be corrupt, just come out and say it, I have no respect for you, don't do something else. So, I'm respectfully disagreeing, you gotta take that chance. Yeah. And for us, get engaged, but we got the place to be.
you direct me. Let's say the council on aging pass and the other two don't, then Thrive is dead. They all three have to pass, based on what his budget. But if individuals pass, let's say library passes and we don't, then they'll be fine.
Okay. And, so what I'm hearing is
And
that
the money won't be touched for my knowledge, right?
No, if it passes, it passes.
Yeah.
if there's any ambiguity about which service on the proposition needs to pass.
Council on aging bills and mosquito bills and yours passes, you still have your 52?
And so I'll just offer up if there's any ambiguity about if one passes, right, Proposition 2 passes, that means that we need, as individuals in this community, to be robust to make sure that when November comes, not only are we registering people to vote, but we're making sure we're getting them to the polls. So that's
What I understand from what I've been told, if one passes, it passes. There is no basically going back and saying, oh, because the other two didn't pass, that one also didn't pass. So they're all individual items. So if the libraries passes and, mosquito abatement and council on aging does not, 52.4 million is still going towards, paying down debt, and we will get 8.3 of the 11.1 mils, and the city will get the 2.8, and it's the same way for the other ones.
It's not that with the council, in fact, we negotiated that they won't come back and ever ask us for any more money after this. So we just said it's more negotiating, and we got it right for our legal counsel.
I want clarity. You said the 52 million will go to pay down debt,
That's what we should know, that the 52.4 million from our, fund balance, would go to paying towards debt for the city.
but you don't have any guarantee that that's what will be done with it.
That's the wording in the proposal on, but it's all within the legalese of the proposal. When you read it, it's really like a paragraph block of text.
Before you got it, we read it, it doesn't say general fund. It doesn't say to pay down debt, it says general.
We've been told that it's for to pay down debt, and that the village, amount that we're, giving is towards the stormwater improvement and street maintenance improvement.
You missed it, we discussed that, the way it works is, it's on the general fund, so the mayor's vision is for it to go there, but it doesn't
That's what
mean that.
they told us that it
Yeah.
was, yeah.
But the council on aging, we negotiate a couple of other extra things. Number one, if the others don't pass, we keep our we're still gonna get the 1.25 million because we never ever, we don't, we've been giving since 2019. But what we did say is that we want our CEA, which is an agreement with the city, to change in that if it passed, the mayor has agreed that he will never ever come back and ask the council on aging for any more money. We put that in writing in our negotiations.
And there's another date, y'all, that I think we need to, make sure we remember and put in our calendar.
Monday, the 27th of October, we're asking citizens to come down to, the Capitol at 1 p.m. to, join stakeholders, legislative progress, as we sort of figure out exactly what's going to happen with the next session that starts on Thursday. Those dates that they're changing are real important dates, and it will impact this as well. You know that on this week, we were at the Supreme Court on the Paddle case, right? And that's a voters' rights, case. The dates that are proposed by, the Secretary of State would move some elections. They need to move the elections so that they can have time to the Supreme Court rule timely to then redistrict out that additional black district. That's why we're going to special session. They will tell you time and time again that we are going just to mess with some dates, change some election cycles. We are going to put things in place should the Supreme Court rule in their favor, so that they can go on and take out that additional, black district. Now, they're telling us, oh, we're okay with 5-1. We're not okay with 4-2. The census says we should have 4-2. When I say 4-2, 5-1, that's a makeup. We have 6 members. We are a third of the state. So we should have 2, if you do the math. Just saying.
October 27th at the Capitol.
October 27th at Capitol, and Eugene will understand this, because we've got to stop, having a defeatist attitude. you will understand this when I say this. We are a blue state that votes red.
That's right. That's right.
We have people on the roads that are blue that go vote red.
Yeah.
And you vote red if you're blue and you don't go vote.
Right.
Louisiana is not a red state.
That's
It is a blue state that votes red.
That's right. That's right.
That's what the data shows.
That's statistically true.
So,
She made a good point, right? Because earlier we talked about calling the council person, right? But our elected official just stood up and told us about something that she felt was important. If our council people wanted us to vote for this, they told us about that. I don't care if they vote unanimous or not.
so the dates on the Secretary of State.
Only one has held a town hall meeting about this, and that was Darrell Hurst. Others have not held a town hall meeting about this.
In the spring. Right.
Oh, not for November, okay.
Well, let's give a great big applause. Ensure that we are informed voters. Do you all think you got a lot of information tonight?
Yes.
I mean, my eyes are open completely. A lot of questions that I had have been answered, or even some of the ambiguity in my brain as to what was going on here. Again, I represent United Excel. One of the things we have with United Excel is our Washington reports. And we want to make sure that we have people in our community that are very knowledgeable about the issues that are going on. So every month, we're going to have town halls where we educate the community via Zoom regarding important issues. So if you would like to be a part of it, please take out your phones and text Watchmen, WATCHMEN, to 225-250-1970. Again, Watchmen, to 225-250-1970. Join in. We want to make sure we have people. And many times people don't like to talk about politics because they're not informed. So we want to make sure that we're informing people on what's going on. So once you text that, you're going to receive an application. You do not have to be a member of United Christian Faith Ministry to be a part of the Watchman team. If you're a data analyst and you're somebody who can go out and gather the facts, we need you. But if you're a person who just want to learn more, then you need us, okay? So go ahead and join in and become a Watchman. Let's give a great big applause to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for Louisiana Omega Chapter for organizing such a well-organized and knowledgeable event. Thank you so much. And so that concludes our forum. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Okay, I just wanna give some, key dates.
Jessica?
I just wanna give a few key dates. I know we talked about, ensuring that we know what dates we need to look at. We need to know that you are able to register to vote on the Go Vote website, okay? So we need to sign on to that, and then also, you gotta register in person by October 5th. The early voting period, which is something that's very important, because we see a lot of votes and a lot of races are won with the early vote. And I know things come up, football games and et cetera, but what we wanna look at and put it on our calendars is from November 1st to November 8th. Now, Sunday, November 2nd is excluded. Deadline to request an absentee ballot, and sometimes you can't, get a chance to actually get to the polls, but you can request an absentee ballot by November 12th, by 4:30. There's another thing we need to keep in mind, and this is for non-military and overseas voters. They have until November 12th to request an absentee vote ballot. The deadline to register and receive voted absentee ballot for the other folks is November 14th. And election day, November 15th. Another thing, I know there were a lot of questions around, how can we find out more information? So there's a website called Park Louisiana
So I do want to take the time to again say thank you to our panelists, Dr. Gilmore, and also to the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. And also to our moderator, Dr. Chrissy Perry. Also for United Excel, United Christian Faith Ministries for coming out. I do want to acknowledge, if you are a member of United Excel, if you will, please stand, so we would love to acknowledge you. Also, if you are a member of New Camp Omega Chapter, please stand. I would like to also acknowledge you. Thank you. I would like to again thank our the public for coming out to hear more about us. We definitely want you to register. You can sign up, include your information in our sign-up sheet. You can also use our QR code that is above me, where you can sign up, give us your information so that we can contact you regarding a call to action, our next steps. We want to have more fireside chats that will be included, and so we can have good dialogue